looking ahead, and our focus entirely on the show this morning is on World Humanitarian Day, which takes place tomorrow. And this morning, we are now joined by the CEO at Penny Appeal South Africa, Shahnaaz Paruk. Shahnaaz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jummah Mubarak to you.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Jummah Mubarak to you and to all the listeners and whoever's tuning in.
Well, Shiraz, it's just appropriate that you join us on a day like this where we are focusing tomorrow, World Humanitarian Day. And we know that the theme this year is recognizing people like yourselves, recognizing people like Penny Appeal South Africa and the work that you do. And I think it actually fits in quite well with Salam Media as well, being a humanitarian media organization. So we're talking humanitarianism all the way ahead of this day. What does this day actually mean, Shinaz, for people like yourself in the organization?
World Humanitarian Day definitely marks a day where, I think everybody across the sector, it's often referred to as the third sector. World humanitarianism is referred to as the third sector. And so it's actually a day for everybody to be able to literally step back, reassess what it is that people do, reassess the work that's been done around the world, this commitment that groups of people seem to have to want to change the world, to want to do better, to want to be able to create better living environments, foster better relationships. It comes with a lot of dedication, it comes with a lot of hard work. And there are phenomenal bodies and institutions and organizations and volunteers across the world that really, really work hard and go out of their way every single day to make this world a better place, to transform communities, change lives. So this day, actually, the UN decided that there should be a day marked to commemorate this, not just commemorate the people behind the scenes, but I think also, to take a step back and commemorate the reason as to why humanitarianism, why do people want to do it, renew your intention towards pledging your support towards helping and assisting communities.
Well, Shinaz, obviously it takes a special type of person to become a humanitarian. And I know as Muslims, we are encouraged to be humanitarians each and every day of our lives. You know, the teachings of the Quran are clear, the teachings of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam are very, very clear. And we are guided by those principles first as Muslims. But just coming to Penny Appeal South Africa, let's take a step back. Let's look at your involvement. Let's look at just Penny Appeal South Africa in terms of World Humanitarian Day, and how you are inspired by this day, which takes place every year.
I think when we look at, often we think about organizations, right? There's so many organizations doing different type of work. There's so many individuals. Often it becomes very noisy. People tend to lose sight. We get busy trying to fundraise. We get busy trying to market. We get busy with projects. The inspiration behind it undoubtedly is twofold. I think firstly it's the divine inspiration. For me, if I speak about it in terms of how I understand the context, it's that divine inspiration where we know that first of all our faith, like most other faiths, there's a strong belief that our creator commands us to example love for your brother what you or sister what you love for yourself, to do good unto others. One of the pillars of our faith is charitable deeds, right? It's paying a zakat. So that undoubtedly becomes the first inspiration, and we know all too well that the reward is tenfold in terms of being able to give off your charity, being able to help others, even if it's not monetary value. Being good to other people, be assisting people wherever possible. These are the teachings of a good nation, of good people, of those that strive to do good, and be good in this world and inshallah in the hereafter. The second point I'd want to touch on in terms of inspiration, it obviously comes from, the people that we serve on the ground. A lot of the time, like I mentioned, it's very noisy in our sector. There's a lot going on. We've got to make sure that things continue. We've got to make sure that there's a lot going on so people are able to be assisted. What we do is when we go into the field and interact, and when we see the success stories, and when we see how people's lives have been changed, how people's lives have been transformed, undoubtedly that becomes a source of great inspiration. I think a lot of people, a lot of individuals draw a lot of inspiration from that. And for me, that's my inspiration, being able to know that the people we serve, their lives are being changed for the better, their lives are being transformed, regardless of where they may be in the world, regardless of what their situations may be. I think it's really integral to draw inspiration from that, because that is the crux of what we do, to be able to serve humanity.
Shinaz, for you personally, at what point in time did you realize you wanted to be a humanitarian?
Uncle Inait, I don't think I ever came to that actual realization consciously. It was something that actually just filtered into my life. I do know when I had completed my matric, I had wanted to do social work, right? I was always very drawn towards that. And the funny thing is, I was accepted for social work, but I went on to rather do media and communications. Um, Full 360, and I find myself in a career path, alhamdulillah, that is so blessed to be able to walk a similar path and be able to serve people. I do feel that at the crux of all of that, my intent to want to help people, my intent to have this need, um, I wouldn't say, yes, to care for people to an extent, but I think also to try and level off those inequalities. Growing up, in South Africa, and even now more than ever, we see that there are so many people where the inequalities are so stark. We see so much of it, so much of poverty. I was definitely drawn to the idea of being able to assist people to get to a level, where they were self-sufficient, to get to a level where, example, children in my school, or children or students at university, were able to be self-sufficient, where people didn't have to really struggle for those basic needs that they had every day, or for their basic rights, food, shelter, etc. So those are definitely my inspirations. What drew me to the sector also is being able to actively, change things, be able to actively go on to create projects, to create meaningful change, and not really do it as a by the way thing, but actually spearhead it and drive it forcefully, again, for the greater good.
Just, I know you mentioned that it's a very noisy space to be in because there's just so much happening. But
Mhm.
what keeps you going as a humanitarian?
Sorry, repeat the question.
I said, what keeps you going as a
What keeps me
humanitarian?
going? Um, I think one of the, it, yes, being a noisy sector, it's also easy to sometimes um, lose sight sometimes, or become very demotivated. We see so much of need, especially now in the world. Everywhere you look, there's something happening. There are people in need. There's right here in our own country, and sometimes it can become very overwhelming, and you can feel very helpless that you're not reaching enough people, and you can't see the breakthroughs happening. But I think, the idea that you see the small changes, and I don't just say it because it's penny appeal, it's not just about small change, big difference, but you start seeing the smaller, you celebrate the small wins, the little things that happen, the small steps that make things better, that help people, whether it's, example, awarding a bursary, whether it's a child who's received their school shoes, whether it's a mom who's received a new home, whether it's Syrian refugees that have been provided with meals for at least the next 6 to 8 months. It's those things that keep you going. It's those things that renew that intention and that want, and that burning desire to want to help those most in need. So definitely, I think taking into account that it's all of the smaller things that add to the bigger picture, and that we can't do everything at once, and sometimes not everything is a magnanimous action of being able to help those in need. It's a culmination or coming together of all those smaller acts that actually lead up to something that really changes lives.
Yes, and Shiraz, also being exposed to people who are in need in more ways than one. And, whether we're talking of people being displaced through wars, through occupations, or just pure hunger, poverty. Uh, at the end of the day, we're all human, and emotions run high. And I'm sure you've had many of those moments in your life as well. Uh, what has been your biggest heart wrenching moment as a humanitarian?
Um, there've been a few. There have been a few, specifically when I visited Syrian refugee camps. There have been a few that have really, tugged at my heartstrings. But there's one that, as I'm speaking to you, I'm actually still getting goosebumps because we're away currently on project visits. We're right here in South Africa, but visiting, project sites and attending to some of the work that we do, and planning ahead. And as recent as 2 days ago, I visited a home, in a city in South Africa, and there was a family, that lived in a sort of a camp, but in an informal settlement type of area, a very very small place of dwelling where there were 5 children, and none of these children were in school. All of these children were now being sent to madrasas, to become hufaz, and learn the Quran. So alhamdulillah for that. And so we were speaking to them, and I was speaking to one of the little girls outside. She reminded me a lot of my niece, and she's a tiny little girl, about 3 years old. And so I spoke to her, and we were playing a bit. And so I said to her, "Have you eaten today? What did you eat today?" And she says to me, "No, I had bread. There was bread." And I said, "Oh, okay, lovely." I said, "Bread and again, that's when that autopilot mode. It's us continuing a conversation as we would with anybody else, not realizing the response that came back was, "No, there's just bread. There was just bread." And for that moment in time, I literally froze because it tugged at my heartstrings, because here was a family who wasn't, you know, they didn't display any of those signs of desperation in terms of poverty or anything like that, but it was very, very clear and evident from where they lived that there was not much that they had. Everybody lived in the small enclosure, which is probably the size of your studio, Uncle Inayat, maybe add on a little bit more, but that was about it, to include some kind of sanitation. And my heart literally just broke. I actually felt myself breaking down. It came out of nowhere. You know, you hear all types of things, but for a little girl, to happily say to you, "No, it was just bread," um, that really broke me, as recent as 2 days ago. And again, there's that reminder that comes from the Almighty, that firstly, how fortunate are some of us, alhamdulillah, to be able to be blessed with so much. And alhamdulillah, how fortunate are all of us to be able to be in a position to try and help those. Count every blessing. And so yes, there were tears. I was really, I think, for the next hour or so, I was absolutely out of it, because I thought to myself, in this day and age, one slice of bread, again, like 5 children plus a single mother, those, and yet a smile on the face, and yet so content with living literally amongst, not good living conditions, really confined space, don't have much except the clothes that they have, which are alternated, waiting and relying on people to assist them. It's not the ideal, and it tells a very sad story. And on that day, I think that little girl, honestly, she really brought me to tears. Um, but alhamdulillah, for us being able to have the means to be able to, inshallah, do something about it. And we make dua for those that we can't reach. That also bothers me sometimes, that there are those that we reach, great. There's so many more that we haven't reached, and it really sometimes doesn't sit well with me. But Allah Ta'ala is, I think, in charge of all things, and He, brings to us whatever it is, wherever we are needed, and we do as much as we can, for His pleasure alone, inshallah.
Well, all of it is for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is these heart wrenching moments, that, inspires you to even reach greater heights as well. And I must say, Jazakallah to you for coming on this morning and talking to us, and at an occasion that is taking place tomorrow, World Humanitarian Day. And we wish you well. Allah accept your efforts. And also all those associated with Penny Appeal South Africa, we wish you well. And I think over the years, it's been an absolute pleasure for us at Salam Media, linking up and talking from
Mhm.
time to time as well. You are on the ground, and we tell the story. So, alhamdulillah, we are appreciative of that partnership, that, for want of a better term, that we have obviously over a period of time, which has actually grown. So, inshallah, Allah make it easy. Once again, have yourself a wonderful Jummah as well, Shahnaaz. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Juma Mubarak. Shukran for the opportunity. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Shahnaaz Paruk, CEO of Penny Appeal South Africa, with us. Next up, standing by is the CEO of Ashraful Aid, Moulana Suhail Wadee.
And celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, now we cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
As the chilly winds sweep across our beautiful land, let us remember those in need. In South Africa, recent weather conditions have left many vulnerable individuals and families struggling to stay warm and nourished. With Ashraful Aid, you can donate a loaf of bread for 10 Rand, a blanket for 150 Rand, or soup for 100 people for just 230 Rand. Donate today at www.ashrafulaid.org. Winter warmth, it starts with you.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Well, we continue taking a look ahead at World Humanitarian Day, which takes place tomorrow, the 19th of August, speaking to a number of humanitarian organizations. And we are now joined by the CEO at Ashraful Aid, Moulana Suhail
Moulana
Wadee.
Suhail Wadee.
Moulana, assalamu
Moulana,
alaikum wa
assalamu
rahmatullahi
alaikum
wa
wa rahmatullahi
barakatuh.
wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Moulana, what a wonderful time for you to join us. Alhamdulillah, it is a blessed day of Jummah, but also looking ahead at the World Humanitarian Day tomorrow. Moulana,
Moulana,
just looking at
looking at
World
World
Humanitarian Day
Humanitarian Day
tomorrow, for
tomorrow,
you
for you
personally,
personally,
Ashraful Aid as
Ashraful Aid
well,
as well,
what does it
what
mean
does
to
it
you?
mean to you?
So, Alhamdulillah, with regards to World Humanitarian Day, this is to sort of to dedicate and recognize all of those people that have passed on, that have dedicated their lives for the benefit of humanity, and and Alhamdulillah, this gives us also an opportunity to reflect that those that have passed on, those people that have sometimes put their lives in the front line in danger, uh, and this makes it also to recognize the sometimes the struggles and the challenges that many people that have lost their lives in the cause of serving humanity. For example, my father, rahmatullah alayhi, rahimahullah, Malagratim Jannatul Firdaus, he passed away on a humanitarian mission in Mozambique. And thus and like this, there's so many people that have passed on while doing humanitarian work. And so this is to recognize the efforts, and also to recognize the struggles that they have gone through, and also to recognize those humanitarians that continue to put their lives in the forefront at sometimes some of the most difficult conditions. If you look at, like, for example, like the Turkey earthquake, so many of humanitarians actually put their lives at risk, in some of the most difficult conditions, in trying to assist people. Sometimes you go into war zones, just to help people. And this is to recognize all of the efforts and those that have passed on, trying to make the world a better place.
Well, Maulana, Allah subhanahu wa
Well,
ta'ala
Moulana,
grant
Allah
your
subhanahu
Mani
wa ta'ala
Father
grant your Mani
Jannatul
Father
Firdaus,
Jannatul
inshallah,
Firdaus,
Ameen.
inshallah,
But
Ameen. But
Maulana, just a request,
Moulana,
if you
just a
could just mute
request,
your
if
mic
you could just mute
while
your mic
I'm
while
talking, because
I'm
I'm getting
talking.
some feed, please. There we go. Okay, Jazakallah for that, Maulana. Yes, and just the question I wanted to raise with you is, at what point in time did you realize you wanted to be a humanitarian? But I'm sure to a large extent, obviously Islam, on the one hand, we speak about hukukullah, hukukul ibad, the rights of our fellow human beings as well, the teachings of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and also your father, Al-Marhum, Rahimahumullah. I'm sure great inspiration on his side for you personally to become involved in the humanitarian work.
Yes, most definitely. His legacy has left an indelible impression on myself personally. That's why, it inspired me to choose this path. And And Alhamdulillah, today, so many people's lives, have been touched through Ashraful Aid. In fact, so many people still speak wonderfully of him, and Alhamdulillah. So this is very, very personal for us, and inshallah, it serves as an inspiration, and the general, the general theme and the general encouragement that we have because of Muslims, or for us being Muslims, to serve humanity, to have compassion on humanity. These play very strong, and these are very strong values that each of us as individuals have. Just the hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, "Irhamu man fil ard wa yarhamukum man fis sama." Have mercy on the creation of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala will have mercy on you. Wallahu fi auni al-abd ma kana al-abdu fi auni akhi. That Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is in your service. As long as you're in the service of humanity, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala's help will be there. As long as you're helping humanity, helping the creation of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So this is very, very, it's an intrinsic part of us as Muslims, and Alhamdulillah, also, following the remarkable footsteps of my marhum father, rahimahullah.
Yes, and also, Moulana, it's about the people that you work with. It's about your team, and I'm sure that they've got the same passion and the desire to be humanitarians in the true sense of the word, to make a difference. And Ashraful Aid, as an organization, Alhamdulillah, achieved so much over the years.
Yeah, most definitely. Every day our teams go out. Sometimes some of the most precarious places. Just yesterday, I've been speaking to a team that's in rural KZN, and they told me, how difficult it was just to reach the area. A normal vehicle couldn't have taken them, and they told me how difficult just to reach, to provide aid. Is today again they in another difficult area in a rural KZN, and like this, almost on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes they're faced with so much of challenges and so much of difficulties, where people sometimes because of desperation want to loot the aid vehicles and that, and Alhamdulillah, we have to really thank them, and we have to really extend our appreciation to the teams around the world, for that selflessly serve humanity, going beyond just just the call of duty. So Alhamdulillah, we really, I'm really truly blessed that Alhamdulillah we have so wonderful teams, and women and males that really go beyond, beyond the call of duty. May Allah Subhanahu wa Taala reward them and bless them abundantly.
Yes, and one other thing, Moulana, I know that there are a lot of challenges in being a humanitarian, and there are moments, there are times that you even have heart wrenching moments. Or what was your biggest heart wrenching moment?
There's so many heart wrenching moments. I just came back from back from Turkey, and by the Syrian border, and we came to a place. This was last week, and we came to a place where they house sickly refugees. So they come into Turkey, and then from there, they stay in this place because they have no other place to go. And just seeing their condition, in their suffering. But the sad part is that we still have access to medical care. And so many of these refugees, just seeing them lying there with no real access to medical care, no access to doctors, this really breaks my heart. And like this, there's so many different places around the world that we have experienced. But like this which is very recent, I actually couldn't carry on standing there. I actually had to walk out, because of seeing such difficult conditions of the people. So these things sometimes, no matter how much, how many places you deal with, how many people you deal with, the different conditions, but there's always places that really breaks you down.
Well, definitely, Moulana, and I think also at the same time, when we look
when
at
we look at
the type of
the
work
type
that
of
you
work
do,
that
the
you do,
people
the
that you are
people that you are
exposed to as
exposed
well,
to.
and I suppose each day is a different challenge. It's a totally different experience, and you will have a lot of those heart wrenching moments on a day to day basis, because there's just so much that is happening, and there's just so much work to do in the humanitarian space.
Yes, most definitely. There's so much of work, and there's so much of so much of need. Just looking at in South Africa, the poverty levels, the inequalities, the inaccessibility to proper healthcare, to education, and looking across Africa, and these the challenges the challenges are tremendous, and we can only play our small part, and we at least the one person's life or two people's lives that we touch, or three people's lives that we touch, that makes a difference. We can't save everyone, but whatever we can do within our capacity, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept.
Tumo, and also
and
at the same
also at
time,
the same
Molana,
time,
looking at the people, the donors, and they all play a part, because as we recognize humanitarian workers, as we recognize people out in the field, as we recognize organizations like Ashraful Aid, it is also about those that care, and it is also about your donors and those that contribute generously towards all these causes, all these humanitarian causes that we speak of.
Yes, most definitely. Our donors, whether they give like 1 rand or whether they give 10 rand, whatever amount, it's really appreciated. It's not the amount that you give. It's the sincerity that you give with. We've in the beginning days when we should go for collections, go to different shops to shop and different places. I can tell you one incident where there was one person who was very, very sickly. You could see he was sickly. The business was quiet, but really, what really till today it still touches my heart that he says, this is what I have in my till, and he took the last bit of funds, and he gave it to us, and he said, this is what I have. This is the only thing that I have in my till, and so till today it still resonates with me. And like that, it's a sincerity. Sometimes old ladies, they phone us, and they give us whatever little that they have. It's that sincerity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. So like that, alhamdulillah, we have to thank our donors who, whatever capacity, even our volunteers, that give their time, and we really appreciate every bit that and part that they have played. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of the efforts. Kullu ma'rufin sadaqah, that every good deed is a sadaqah and a charity. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward each one of you abundantly. Ameen.
Jazakallah khairan so much
Jazakallah
for
khairan
that,
so much for
Maulana,
that.
and for coming on and talking to us this morning. Allah accept your rewards. Allah accept you. Allah grant you barakah in everything that you are doing, you and your entire team at Ashraful Aid. And once again, we appreciate your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Moulana Suhail Wadee with us this morning, CEO of Ashraful Aid. We're going to go for a break. We will continue looking ahead at World Humanitarian Day tomorrow.